Yep. I told you in that series that as soon as a team loses a home game, that team's in trouble.
Yep.
So far, the home team's won
Yes.
every game.
Yep. And that game tomorrow night, I really get a good feeling about it. But I got a good feeling about that game on Saturday, and we wound up giving it away.
Yeah, they had the lead in that one. That was disappointing. I think I might have jinxed them because I got home like 2 minutes before the 2-goal comeback.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. I got home and the Rangers had a 2-goal lead, and I'm like, oh, good. Rangers are up by 2. And then right after that, they scored to bring it to 1, and then they scored to tie it right after that. I'm like, oh, did I just jinx the Rangers on this one?
We had all kinds of chances in the first overtime,
Yep.
and couldn't capitalize. So there's no excuse.
And then they ended up losing.
If they had got into that overtime, and scored in 30 seconds or a minute, I've been really pissed.
Yep.
But they had the whole first overtime to score and couldn't do it. So
yep.
I don't feel as bad about that.
All right.
So
I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button. We
Okay.
just need our little bit of silence before we start. NHL Network is talking about that hit. All right, let's not talk about it. We'll put it in the show.
Okay.
All right. Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Hockey Nuts podcast. My name is Wayne. I'm here once again with Steve. How's it going today, Steve?
Oh, just going great, Wayne. Riding the high of a much needed victory last night by my team, and I'm glad to talk about the hockey world once again with you.
Yeah, as a reminder, we do record this show on Wednesday nights, and it is indeed Wednesday night, roughly 6:30 p.m. Eastern time as we record this. So if you're listening to us later, you'll get an idea what we're talking about based on this current time here. But tonight, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to just run you down the headlines real quick. Obviously, we're going to talk about round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And looks like all 4 series are going to be long ones this time. No sweeps, no 5-gamers that I can see anyway. But we'll get you caught up with all the 8 remaining teams in the NHL. Also, we got more individual NHL award nominations that have been announced over the past week. So we'll get you caught up on everything that's happened there. The NHL Draft Lottery happened this week. We'll tell you who won and who gets to pick when. And then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about the World Championships because they get going, in 2 days from now, on Friday.
Right.
Actually, less than 2 days now because Friday afternoon, our time, the games get underway. So we'll talk about that one as well. But before we get into all the hockey talk, let's remind everybody that you can find us at a bunch of different places around the internet. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Google Play Music, Player.fm, your favorite Android or Apple app that's used to round up all your podcasts. You can listen to us right on our website at thehockeynuts.com. You can listen to us right on the hockeywriters.com website. It's a great resource for alternative opinions and articles about the various goings-on around the hockey world. And they also have a podcast channel where several hockey podcasts are all chunked together all in one page, and we're among that group. So it's a great website to go to at thehockeywriters.com. And as far as supporting the show, you can financially support us by using our affiliate links right on our hockeynuts.com website. We have affiliate relationships with both Amazon.com and HockeyMonkey.com. And obviously, most people know Amazon by now, unless you've been living under a rock. You know what Amazon does. But Hockey Monkey is a hockey equipment provider. So any of you folks out there that listen to our show that either are hockey players or have family that are hockey players, you can use those affiliate links. Your purchases at those two websites won't cost you a dime extra, and a little kickback will come back to us to help us offset the cost of running this little shindig that we have here called our Hockey Nuts podcast. So, but additionally, if you can't support us financially, you can certainly share the show with everybody you know that is a hockey fan. And if you have iTunes, you can rate us and review us. Subscribe to us right on the iTunes app. That would we greatly appreciate. That'll help us rise in the rankings there. We're actually pretty high in the rankings. I looked the other night. If you go into the into iTunes, and then go into the podcast tab on iTunes and just do a search for NHL, just straight up NHL, we're right on that front page, right on that first page. So we're doing pretty well in iTunes.
Yeah, we are.
So
I'm tickled.
So, yeah, we're doing very well with iTunes. But we appreciate any further support that you folks are giving us. And, of course, we do really, really appreciate those of you that are out there that have been listening to us. And I know there's a bunch of people out there that are listening to us. We see the numbers. So, but if you want to get involved with the show, we encourage that as well. You can tweet me. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at SBall504man. You can email the show directly at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. And we could include any emails. Sometimes we'll just respond directly right back at you. Other times we'll hold on to the question and talk about it in the next show. So you could also leave us a voicemail at 919-960-1718. We have a Facebook page where you can watch us record the show live at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. So you can actually watch us record the show, or how we make the sausage, so to speak. And we also have a YouTube channel where we also take that video that we record on Facebook, and we also upload it to YouTube. And the shortcut address for that is thehockeynuts.com/YouTube. So with all that out of the way, let's start talking about hockey. And, of course, it's NHL playoffs are in full swing, so we got to talk about all the different series. So we'll run them down one by one. And we're going to start with the Senators, Rangers. And because Rangers are your team, I want to hear your thoughts on what you've seen so far.
Okay.
And before we do that, let me just get everybody updated.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll get you updated on the games first, though. We finished Game 3 as of last night. Ottawa won Game 1, 2-1. And then Ottawa also won Game 2, 6-5 in double overtime. Both those games were in Ottawa. Game 3 was last night, and the Rangers came out and won 4-1. So right now it's 2-1 Ottawa, and Game 4 is in New York on Thursday night. And I'll listen to your thoughts.
That will be a decisive that game right there. If we're able to come all the way back and tie this series up, and I'm getting the feeling that we will, Wayne, after watching last night, but you never know. But I feel like it's going to be a hell of a last three games if that happens. It really will be, because Ottawa's they're good. They're playing better than Montreal. You can make a case that they are.
Yeah.
But if you look at the three games, okay. And you're on my side of the fence. You're a Rangers fan. I'm disappointed we lost Game 2, okay? But those games, the first two games, could have went either way. We could have won Game 1 just as easily as we could have won Game 2. We had the opportunities to win both of those games, and we didn't capitalize. But going into last night's game, I sat down and I was like, well, what's going to happen? This is going to be the game of the series right now if you're a New York fan. And we came out and completely controlled that game. The puck was in our possession for most of that game. We played very decisively. We played very urgently. And I really, there was stretches in the second period where they scored that goal to make it 4-1, but and in the third period they had a couple of shifts there where they put some things together. But Ottawa was really never in that game.
Yep.
If you watched that game last night.
Yep.
So it comes down to tomorrow night. And if we play like we did last night, I really feel like it's going to get that series tied. And then it's almost like a mini series, When it happens, it goes 2-2. You kind of throw the first 4 games out.
Right.
And you got the best of 3. And the teams play that. Yeah. Yep. It's like it leaves their memory banks. I don't know. So,
and I've been saying it to you for a few days now, because you've been in a big panic since the Rangers went down 2-0, and I said, "Don't worry." I said, until somebody loses a game at home, there's nothing to worry about.
God bless you, Wayne. That really helped me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I watched your team really, I thought, outplayed. I thought the Bruins outplayed Ottawa. I really did. And they didn't come out on the winning end. And here the same thing in many ways is happening in the series with us.
Yep.
But you got to give credit to Ottawa. They are playing as I've never seen that team play any better.
Yep. Yeah, they're playing very well now. I mean, you've got Erik Karlsson, of course, is basically just carrying that team on his back.
Right.
Just the way he's playing right now is, if the Norris Trophy was based on playoff performance, I would give Erik Karlsson the Norris today, the way he's played so far.
Oh, you're not kidding.
And if Ottawa, I don't see it happening, but if Ottawa were to somehow run the table and win the Stanley Cup, he is without a doubt your Conn Smythe Trophy winner.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
And Bobby Ryan's playing well for them, although he got hurt there in Game 3, but it looks like he's going to be back in Game 4. You've got, Craig Anderson is playing incredibly well. I mean, the whole team, Kyle Turris.
And this JT Pajot or J. I got to be honest with you. I've never really focused on the guy. I might have seen his name before. And here he comes and just jumps off the screen in the last 2 games. So scored 4 goals in Game 2.
Yep. And he was the one that put his hand on the puck that in the Bruins series there when I was screaming and yelling for a penalty shot because
really?
he's the one that covered the puck in the crease.
Oh,
they didn't call that penalty shot on him, but yeah, it was him that was in doing that. But yeah, I mean, like I said, until the Rangers or the Senators, whoever loses a game at home is the first team that's going to be in trouble in this series. Now, obviously, because the Rangers don't have home ice advantage, that at some point, if they're going to win the series, have to win a game on the road.
That's right.
They're going to have to do it at some point. So
yeah.
And really, there's only 2 games left to win on the road, and that's game 5 and 7. So
yeah. I just listen. I can really easily focus on this by saying we basically have to win Game 4 tomorrow night, and nothing is entering my mind.
Yep.
If we win that game, then we can focus on the rest of the thing. But
and that's how they got to be too. Is one game at a time at this point.
Yeah.
Let's tie the series first, and then we'll worry about getting that 3rd win. So
right. On the Rangers side of the puck, real quick, I have been extremely impressed, and I talk about him later on in the podcast too. But Ryan McDonagh has elevated himself. He really is an elite defenseman in the league, but he's a stay-at-home defenseman, so he's never going to score the kind of points that an Erik Karlsson or a Brent Burns, he's just not going to do that. But when it comes to shutting down the opposition's best player, he can do it. And he is playing the best I have ever seen him play since he started with the Rangers. He is having tremendous series against Montreal and now against Ottawa. Both series, he's been the best player for the Rangers, I think. Or he's really, I'd have to say this series.
Yeah.
He's really elevated him and Matt Zuccarello. Without those two, the Rangers are toast.
Right.
And
Yep.
so
And I meant to ask you in the last podcast, and I didn't think of it till afterward, and I want to ask you now. What's your take on the whole Brassard for Zibanejad trade now?
they are talking about that, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're both playing.
Last year, they're not playing as. Neither one of them are playing as well as they did last year.
Yeah.
But Brassard is having a great playoff. I don't know that he's scoring that much against the Rangers, but he did. He played well against the Bruins.
Yep. Yeah, he did.
I just think that I think it's kind of an equal thing. I look at it as it was a good trade for us, and it appears it was a good trade for Ottawa.
Yep.
Although I don't know how much Brassard is. I don't think he's playing as well as he did last year as he played with us.
Yeah.
You know, he had 27 goals last year.
Yep.
And he was one of our best players, and I don't know that he played up to that potential this year in Ottawa. As far as Mika's, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but he's still performing in the playoffs, though.
He is.
Yeah.
And as far as Mika Zibanejad, I mean, he has turned our team around. And I mean, in terms of face-offs, he might be the best face-off guy on our team. But he's dangerous on the power play. Although as of late, he hasn't hit that one-timer, but he can score. He's one of our best power play performers, and he's a dangerous guy out there. He can skate. He's a very good skater. So I'm glad we have Mika Zibanejad, and I'll take that trade. It turned out well for us.
Well, good, but I still think the Rangers are going to ultimately win this series. So, they just got to take care of business tomorrow night, and then that'll even up the series. And like you said, it turns back into a 3-game series, and game 5, 6, and 7 are Saturday, Tuesday, and Thursday.
Yes.
So after game 5, they get an extra day break. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next series, which would be the Capitals and the Penguins. And wow, this one's kind of turning a little ugly, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. If you look at NHL.com today, Wayne, there's 7, 8 different articles. I mean, that is definitely the talk of the NHL right now.
Yeah, just to recap what's happened so far, Game 1 and Game 2 both went to Pittsburgh, 3-2 and 6-2, and both those games were in Washington. So Washington put themselves in a deep hole by losing the first 2 games at home. But then Game 3 was Monday night, and Washington came out and won that game 3-2 in overtime, although they almost blew it.
Yeah,
they had a 2-0 lead with when did Pittsburgh score their last goal? Like a minute something left, or 2 minutes? No, about 3 minutes left. I think it was. It was very late in the third, anyway, before Pittsburgh got their first goal. Yeah.
Yep.
So Pittsburgh came roaring back and tied it right at the end of the third, and then they had plenty of chances in overtime, but Washington ultimately scored the overtime goal to bring that series back to 2-1. If they'd have gone down 3-0, there's a lot of people that have been saying it's over even after the 2-0 lead that the Pittsburgh had. But something happened in Game 3 that has really put this series in doubt for Pittsburgh in particular.
That's right.
That was Sidney Crosby's injury, and that's all they've been talking about. The game was Monday night, and they're still talking about it. Here it is Wednesday.
That's right.
And the big debate was, whether his injury was a deliberate shot from Washington, or was it, an incidental play. So I don't know what your take on that, but I certainly have an opinion about it.
Well, I've watched the replays several times.
Yep.
I don't see what all the fuss is about if I'm a Pittsburgh fan, but I'm not. I do not think it was intentional in any way. And I don't think now did he received a game misconduct for that.
Yeah, Niskanen got a game misconduct for cross-checking.
Right.
It was 5 in a game, so that put him out. And this thing happened in the first period, so Niskanen ended up being out for game 2. But I mean game 4. But I agree that that hit was not intentional. I've also watched the replay several times, and using my experience as a player, I could easily tell that. In fact, there was a penalty that was missed that should have been called. As Crosby's coming down through the slot, Ovechkin's there, and Ovechkin I think he tried to lift Crosby's stick, and he came up and dinged Crosby right in the head with a stick. Right. And that's what sent Crosby kind of off balance and into a fall. So then Crosby falls into Niskanen's legs, and Niskanen, in an attempt I know he was trying to also Niskanen was trying to prevent Crosby from getting a shot off on net. So the cross-check was going to happen. It was going to either be, a hit or a cross-check of some kind, and that was to prevent Crosby from getting his stick on the puck and getting a shot on net. But no way, you look at it, in no way was Niskanen trying to hit Crosby in the head. Niskanen, at the very most, was trying to hit him in the upper arm or maybe even the shoulder. And players in front of the net take shots in the arm and shoulder like that all game long. I mean, if you really watched in front of the net, you could count hundreds of times where guys are giving little cross-checks to each other in front of the net, in front of both ends, both teams. It's happening all game long. This was just one of those. But because of the fact that Crosby was falling, and as he was falling, he was going into Niskanen's legs, Niskanen, instead of the cross-check hitting him in the arms, it came up and got him in the neck and in the head. And it's unfortunate that Crosby got hurt, but because you always hate, you don't want to beat a team because their best player goes down. But I don't feel it was in any way intentional. It was just an unfortunate. And if you watch it at full speed, of course, we have the luxury of replay. We can watch it slow down to painfully slow if we want to. But if you watch it at full speed, I mean, it happened so fast that there's no way that you can do it. And I think the only reason that they ended up giving him a game misconduct is because, yes, they had him for a cross-check, and Crosby got hurt.
Right.
And that usually comes with when somebody gets hurt, that usually comes with a game misconduct.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it should have risen to a game misconduct. I thought the 5-minute major was really all that it should have. They definitely made the right decision in not reviewing that at the player safety.
Yeah, and they probably saw it the way I did and say, look, it's a play. It was unfortunate timing, and the NHL obviously decided no further discipline was needed, but either way, and then yesterday or last night it came out that Crosby will not play in Game 4 due to having a concussion. So
that's right.
So that could definitely be a big turning point in this series, in my mind.
I agree with you, and the history of Sidney Crosby is comes into play here, don't you think, Wayne?
Yeah, he's had several concussions.
He's had several. I'd be shocked, literally shocked, if they put him out on the ice in Game 5, because and they may, and I could be dead wrong, but the reason I'm saying that is because they're going to make sure that he is ready to play in the game. And if he's not, if he's having any signs of the NHL protocol is going to take control here.
Well, and if they didn't have the protocol, he'd be back for Game 4. But they have to follow the protocol now. It's in the rules. They have to do it. Yeah. And he won't be back until the doctors give him the clearance. So,
I read that article real quick while we're talking about the series. Matt Niskanen, a reporter, approached him today, and his comment was, "I don't think there's anything I can say that's going to make him feel better about it," Niskanen said after this morning's skate in Pittsburgh. I'm sure he's angry. when the time is right, I'll probably reach out to him after the boiling over kind of cools down. But at this time, there's probably not much I can say to him that's going to make him feel better about it or believe me.
Yeah.
So, and Niskanen used to play with Pittsburgh. So, he left the team and went to Washington in 2014. So he knows Sidney.
So they're teammates, yeah.
Yeah.
Former teammates, I should say.
That's right. I just don't think that if I'm a Pittsburgh fan, then I'm going to look at this and say, oh, it was malicious. It was
intentional.
Done,
yeah.
Hurt him and put it. If you feel that way, I think you're
delusional is what I'd have to say.
I think you're really letting the fact that you want your team to win the Stanley Cup again get in the way of
clouding your judgment. Yeah.
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 Because it wasn't intentional.
Yeah.
It really wasn't.
And you can take it. I've played hockey for years and years and years, so I see the game a little differently than folks that have never played the game before. And can take it from me, that was definitely not an intentional play. It's just an unfortunate. I don't want to say coincidence, but just an unfortunate accident that it happened. So,
yeah.
So, it should be interesting, but it's definitely given some momentum back to the Capitals. Not only the Crosby injury, but being able to pull off the overtime win in Game 3. Because if they'd gone down 3-0, even without Crosby, I don't think Washington's going to beat them 4 in a row.
That's right.
Not as much as Pittsburgh's owned them in the past. So
that is 100% correct.
Yep. So we're good. All right. You have anything else you want to add about this series before we move on to the next one?
Nothing other than the obvious for me is I've seen it before where Pittsburgh will lose Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin will become Sidney Crosby. He is. You know what I'm saying? He is a tremendous player, and a lot of times I've said he's better than Sidney Crosby, but Crosby just has that ability. But Malkin has led the league in scoring before too, and has won the Conn Smythe. And I've seen him elevate his game, and it's like Pittsburgh's not even missing Sidney. So that may happen this time. You never know.
Well, it should be interesting. Game 4 is later tonight. It actually starts here shortly, so should be fun to see.
It'll be interesting
with the rest of this series. Now, if Pittsburgh comes out and wins tonight, I think Washington's got to come back and tie this series. Ultimately,
you're right. And if they do, Wayne, it's a little different than our situation. If Washington comes out tonight and they win this game, I think they have the upper hand in this series.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going back to Washington.
Yep.
And Crosby's probably not going to play a game or two.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
That's my feeling on it.
Yep. So, all right. Well, let's move on to the Western Conference. And we have the Blues and the Predators next. And just to recap, we have Game 1 went to Nashville 4-3. Game 2 was Friday night. That went to St. Louis 3-2, tying the series 1-1. Then Game 3 went to Nashville, and that game was at Nashville, and the Predators took the lead 2-1 in that one. So Game 4 was last night. So they're the only series that have actually completed 4 games, and that one Nashville came out on top. So now the Predators are sitting pretty with a 3-1 lead in this series, and I got to tell you, Nashville's looking pretty scary right now.
They are. I'll talk about them in the power ranking segment of the show, but Nashville is playing better than anybody imagined. But if you look back at our predictions at the beginning of the year, Wayne, we said they were going to make the conference finals.
Well, I was just going to say Nashville is now playing like the team we thought they were going to be. Is basically what's happening with them.
They've caught fire, and Pecorine is playing great hockey.
Yep.
In net, but their defensive core. I watched Roman Josi score that slap shot goal the other night. It was just devastating.
Their top 4 are probably the best top 4 in the league. if you ask my opinion on that. In Nashville, I'm talking about.
Their
So,
defense.
Yeah.
I agree. I think they're the best defensive team in the NHL.
Yep.
Them and if Anaheim comes on, Anaheim has got a great defense too. But I agree with you. I think Nashville does have the best defense.
Yep. You've got Nashville. You've got PK who's playing well, which is he's loving it right now. He's going for he's dancing out there. He's just having a good old time every night now. So, which is good to see. But I don't know. I think Jake Allen's cooled off a little bit in the St. Louis Nets. I don't know if that's a product of how good Nashville's been, or if he's actually cooling off a little bit. But it looks like St. Louis right now is. It looks like they're done as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I think something happened when. Well, listen, Nashville came into this series with a lot of momentum after knocking over Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
And then they pulled off the victory in St. Louis.
Yep.
Which was big. That was a big victory. They come home and just hold their serve on home ice. The fans are very. That is definitely.
That building is insane right now in Nashville. It's insane.
Trying to win there. It's extremely difficult.
Yep.
So St. Louis has got to win when they go back to St. Louis now. I believe the series shifts back to St. Louis for Game 5.
Yes,
if
it
I'm
does.
not mistaken.
Yep.
And then, they're going to have to roll the dice when they go back to Nashville because it's.
Well, essentially, it's Nashville's series to lose because St. Louis has got to run the table now. Three in a row against Nashville. A team that's only lost one game so far in the playoffs, and they got to lose 3 in a row.
Yeah,
I'll be very surprised if it happens. So,
I think you and I are both sitting here saying that of all these series, the Eastern Conference series really you can't have a clear definitive decision on who might win. But this one, we really believe that Nashville is going to make the conference finals. It's looking like that more and more.
Yep.
So
I agree. I mean, everything Nashville can't do anything wrong, and seems like St. Louis can't do anything right against this Nashville team. So yeah, I don't know what more there is to say about it other than the fact that St. Louis fans have got to be nervous. But Game 5 is tomorrow night. Friday night.
That's right. Yep.
So, and then Game 6, if necessary, is Sunday. Game 7 is Tuesday.
Yeah. The game tomorrow night is crucial. And, St. Louis could come out and win. They've got a good team. They played well against Nashville in Game 2. They've got to retool, readjust, and if Tarasenko gets going, trust me, they can win that game easily.
Oh, yeah.
But it's gonna be a tough job going back to Nashville. I would not.
Yeah, because all the games have essentially been 1-goal games. Yeah, Game 3 was a 3-1, but I believe Nashville got an empty netter at the end of that one. So, I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I mean 4-3, 3-2, 3-1, 2-1. I mean, really could have gone either way, even though, it is what it is. St. Louis is 3-1 down. They've got to pull off a miracle to beat Nashville, a team that's incredible. And 2 of those games are in Nashville.
Yeah.
So, no.
No, they only got 1 game left.
No, that's right.
Nashville.
That's right. Yeah. St. Louis has the home ice advantage in that one. I'm sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, the most crucial thing is get out there, win your game on home ice, and see what happens in Nashville. That's.
Yep. Yep, they're going to have to pull off the win there. All right, well, let's move on to the other series. That leaves us with just the Ducks and the Oilers.
That's right.
And right now, they've completed 3 games, and the Oilers won Game 1, 5-3. They won Game 2, 2-1. Both games in Anaheim, putting Anaheim squarely on the backing them into the corner. But then Anaheim came up to Edmonton and beat them 6-3 in Game 3. That game was tied 3-3 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually see the game, but I was checking in on it because I've done a lot of reffing in the last few days, so I haven't seen a lot of these games. But I do know that Anaheim took in Game 3 a 3-0 lead. Edmonton came roaring back, tied the game 3-3, but then Anaheim pulled away for the 6-3 win. So, so now the Oilers lead that series 2-1. Game 4 is in Edmonton later tonight. I'll probably watch that after I get home from picking up my daughter at the bus stop. And then, because I don't go into work till late tomorrow, so I can stay up late tonight and watch that game.
Yes.
So Game 4 is tonight. That's at Edmonton. So Edmonton's got a good chance on their own ice to take a 3-1 lead in that series. And then Friday, Sunday, and Wednesday are the last 3 games of that series.
Yeah.
So
Let it suffice to say that I think it's Edmonton's series to lose, and this game tonight is going to tell everything. I really think that if Edmonton comes out and wins the game on the home ice, which the fans, did you see that? First of all, they had the a cappella national anthem. The guy started singing and then held up the microphone and the whole crowd.
Yeah.
It really and that was the United States the national anthem.
Yep.
I think that Edmonton is going to win that game tonight. I really do, and get a commanding lead in this series. But I could be wrong. I've been very impressed with how they've played. Connor McDavid is not letting up.
Nope.
He's playing awesome.
No, I've been, you know, we talked about it last series. I was surprised that Edmonton got by San Jose, so because of the amount of playoff experience. But as it turns out, you know, after the series is over, San Jose had a whole number of injuries that they weren't even talking about that have later come out. So, I mean, Joe Thornton playing with torn ligaments in his knees, you know, you know, he's just the start of all the injuries that they've had. But no, Edmonton's played very well. I mean, I thought they lay down against Anaheim as well, but they've really been taking it to Anaheim. So, so I would love to see an Edmonton advance on to play Nashville. That would be kind of an interesting series. One thing I made a comment to one of the people I work with. Because I had been complaining so much about the officiating in the Ottawa-Boston series, I think at one point I said, you know what? They're trying so hard to get the Canadian teams to advance. I hope that Edmonton and Ottawa end up the 2 Stanley Cup finalists, and the ratings in the U.S. will be nothing if those two teams end up in the in the Stanley Cup final, nobody in the U.S. will care.
That's right.
And nobody will watch, and NBC will be pissed.
It's going to happen sometime, Wayne.
Yeah, I know. But even if you had Montreal or Toronto as one of the Canadian teams is a bit of appeal. But Edmonton and Ottawa?
Yeah. Although Edmonton is a joy to watch. I enjoy watching them play.
They're a fun team to watch. I really do hope they advance. That Edmonton, if it happens, and I hope it does, Edmonton-Nashville series, you see Connor McDavid going up against PK Subban. That will be that will be some kind of series to watch.
You're not kidding.
So,
that'll be a good one.
We don't want to speculate too much on that, but anyway, all right. So now we are all caught up with everything that's happened in the playoffs so far this year. So let's talk about some of the things that have been going on off the ice. And the first thing we got to knock off our list is get everybody caught up on all the transactions that have gone down over the past week or so. And we've got another bunch of junior players that have signed. I call them junior players, which basically I'm referring to, you know, junior and, you know, college and that, you know, all these underage players that are coming up through the ranks anyway that have signed with NHL teams. And back on the 26th, Mikhail Vorobiev, I don't know if I said that right, forward, who was playing for Salavat Yulev in the, I assume that's the KHL version.
That's right.
Yep. Signed with the Philadelphia Flyers. Emil Patterson, a forward playing for Vaxio Lakers Hockey Club. I assume that is also in Sweden. Has signed with the Nashville Predators. Devontae Stevens, a defenseman from the Kelowna Rockets, signed with the Buffalo Sabres. Nathan Knoll, a forward with the St. John Sea Dogs, has signed with the Chicago Blackhawks. Antoine Waked, who was playing for Rouen Noranda. No, I always have trouble with that one.
Yeah, that is.
Rouen Noranda Huskies.
Yes.
He signed with the Montreal Canadiens. Carl Grundstrom, a forward, who's playing for Frölunda in the Swedish league, is signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I've seen that name before. I think he's a pretty good prospect. I could be wrong, but Jakub Jarabek, a defenseman who was playing for Vityaz Podlask, is now signed with Montreal Canadiens. Neil Poink, defenseman out of the University of Minnesota Duluth, has signed with the New York Rangers.
Yep.
And the one thing I want to, you might be able to give us some insight on the player, but man, we talked about a lot of University of Minnesota Duluth players this spring.
Yeah.
Signing.
Yeah.
That team is going to be all new in the fall. Yeah. All their players are signing.
That's right. They are all moving into the NHL.
I mean, they were one of the top 5 teams all year long in college, but they're gonna have all freshmen next year because everybody's signing.
That's true.
So, do you know anything about him?
I don't know anything about him, and when I looked at it, I immediately was like, I watched those games with Minnesota Duluth, and I don't remember seeing him play.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it really.
Well, he's obviously not going to be up with the team this year, with them being in the playoffs, but he's going to start in the minor leagues. But yeah, so we'll have to see how he turns out. Maybe he'll definitely be in training camp next fall. So
yeah.
All right, next player, Cam Dineen. I wonder if that's any relation to Kevin Dineen.
Yeah,
defenseman for the North Bay Battalion, has signed with the Arizona Coyotes. And finally, David Kampf, forward from Parady Chumutov, which I believe is in the Czech League, has signed with the Chicago Blackhawks. You watch. This is next year's Artemi Panarin. David Kampf.
He'll step on the ice, and before you know it, he's 10 goals and 25 assists the first 15 games of the year, and you and I are going to be talking about him.
Yep. As the new bread man.
Yep.
So, all right, and there were some other signings around the league concerning some current NHL players and coaches. First one, defenseman Nikita Zaitsev signed a 7-year, $31.5 million contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs on Tuesday. The contract has an average annual value of $4.5 million through the 23-24 season. Maple Leafs also signed forward Ben Smith to a 1-year, $650,000 contract. Zaitsev, who's 25, had 36 points in 82 regular season games. Man, that's a pricey contract for that kind of player.
Is. Yeah.
And averaged 22.01 per game, second on the Maple Leafs. Yeah, that's a lot of time. So obviously the Maple Leafs think he's a very valuable player.
Right.
He was one of 6 rookies to play at least 75 games for Toronto this season, helping them qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time since the dreaded 2013 year. Dreaded, I mean, for Maple Leafs fans.
Yeah.
Zaitsev could have become a restricted free agent on July 1st. He signed a 1-year entry-level contract back on May 2nd of 2016 that had an NHL salary cap charge of $1.775 million, according to Cap Friendly. Smith, who's 28, had 4 points in 36 games with the Maple Leafs after being claimed on waivers from the Avalanche on October 24th. Smith could become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. He played the 2016-17 season on a 1-year contract with a salary cap charge of $675. So he's essentially making a slight pay cut, actually.
Yeah.
A $25,000 pay cut. So, but yeah, Zaitsev. My initial reaction was, wow, that's a long contract and a pretty pricey one.
Yep.
I hope he's worth it for them.
25 years old.
He's going to be part of their core. It's pretty obvious there that they want him as part of their core going forward.
Yep. I think he's going to be good.
So our favorite Toronto Maple Leaf fan, Steve Dangle, who we both follow, he's pretty excited about Zaitsev. So if nobody knows more about the Toronto Maple Leafs as a fan anyway than Steve Dangle. So if he's excited, we're excited for him.
Yes, and I'd have to agree that he has a pretty good feel for the pulse of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh yeah.
So encourage people to listen to his podcast if you want to learn about Toronto.
Yeah. Oh yeah. His podcast is very Toronto centric, but he's him and his buddies are definitely pretty well known around the Toronto community for their very loud opinion.
That's right.
All right, let's move away from that story and move on to the Calgary Flames signing general manager Brad Treliving to a multi-year contract on Monday. Treliving has been the Flames GM since April 28, 2014, so they just extended him out. So obviously they think he's doing a good job. Next one, Michael Therrien is among the candidates to interview for the coaching job with the Florida Panthers. This one falls more under the rumor category because for whatever reason, everybody's interested on who Florida is going to assign as their next coach. So,
right.
Not Michael, Michel Therrien. Sorry, French-speaking Canadians. I screwed that name up. Michel Therrien, sorry.
Michel Therrien.
Yes, Michel Therrien, yes. Oui. Therrien, who's 53, was fired by the Montreal Canadiens on February 14th, even though Montreal was 31-19-8 at the time and in first place. He coached the Canadiens for parts of the past 5 seasons and also from 2000 to 2003, and also coached the Penguins from 2005 to 2009. He's 406, 303, and 82 with 23 ties in 814 regular season games. You know what? I'm wondering, and I believe that Therrien would still be Montreal's coach if the Bruins hadn't fired Claude Julien.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that. Now,
so they were just waiting for somebody better to come along to fire him. So.
Based on how they performed in the playoffs, Wayne, he may or may not still be there. But
yeah,
it's neither here nor there. But I agree with you that it had Claude Julien stayed with the Bruins through the end of the season, Michel Therrien wouldn't even be interviewing for that job.
Right. So according to General Manager Dale Talon, they're going to be interviewing about a dozen people.
Yeah.
And of course, we talked last week that Jim Montgomery was one of the 12 people that they were going to be interviewing. No news of whether or not Denver's head coach, Jim Montgomery, actually did interview, but he was on that list.
This seems to be a long, stretched-out process, don't you think?
Well, they're looking for the right guy.
Yeah.
They really are. It's clear that Florida is committed to winning, and they have to. They have to be that way because people don't go watch the games if they're not putting a good product on the ice. They're one of those markets that it's absolutely crucial that the product on the ice is good.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of one of those markets, the Carolina Hurricanes made the news this week, and there's been a lot of debate about this one too. Carolina Hurricanes acquired goalie Scott Darling from the Chicago Blackhawks on Friday in a trade for a third-round pick in the 2017 NHL Draft. Darling can become an unrestricted free agent on July 1st. Scott had a very successful season in Chicago and was a big part of the Blackhawks finishing with the best record in the Western Conference, Hurricane GM Ron Francis said in a statement. He played a critical role in Chicago's 2015 championship team. Darling, who's 28, was 18-5-5 with a 2.38 goals against average and .924 save percentage in 32 games, with this season as the backup to Corey Crawford. He's 39-17-9 with a 2.37 goals against average, .923 save percentage, and 4 shutouts in 75 NHL games in his career, all with Chicago. Darling played in 5 Stanley Cup playoff games in 2015, helping the Blackhawks win the Stanley Cup. Now, those numbers instantly make him, I mean, if you look at just simply stats on a page, nothing else, obviously we can't talk about the locker room component of this and the leadership and whatnot, but if you look at just pure stats, Darling essentially becomes the number 1 goalie in Carolina. Just like that.
I agree. I saw your tweet earlier this week.
Yep.
Here's what I think, okay? You tell me what you feel. I think Cam Ward is on his way out. I think Cam Ward has a year or 2, maybe 3. I don't know what his contract situation is on Cap Friendly, but I don't think he's got long. They may keep him until he's going to probably make a push to try and win 300 hockey games, okay? But I don't think Cam Ward is there long. And so Carolina needed a guy with seasoned experience, a Stanley Cup. He's been on the team with the Stanley Cup.
Yep. They're
bringing him in to step in there and take the lion's share of the load that Cam Ward was playing. That's what I think.
Yep, I would tend to agree with that. Cam Ward's best days are definitely behind him, and Carolina has been searching for, the future number 1 goalie of this franchise.
Right.
And by trading for Darling, my guess is they feel like they've got a pretty good shot at signing him, because now they essentially have him. But they're only his, he only belongs to the Canes until July 1st, unless they sign him. They have to sign him before then. Well, if they could sign him after July 1st too, but after July 1st, every team in the league has the opportunity to talk to him. Right now, they have exclusive rights to him, negotiating rights. So I know what they're going to do. They're going to go to him and say, "Look, the net's yours. You wanted a starting gig. You weren't going to get it in Chicago as long as Corey Crawford's there. Here's your opportunity to start. Come to Carolina. You can be our starter. Cam Ward will back you up." And
I agree with you.
And it makes it interesting though, because what are they going to do? I mean, I guess what they're doing, what Carolina's going to probably do, is they're going to protect Scott Darling. And then Vegas will, if they want one of those 2 goaltenders, either Lack or Ward, they can have them. And, the Canes still have the other one. So, but if Vegas ultimately doesn't choose either Cam Ward or Eddie Lack, then that leaves Carolina with 3 goalies.
Right.
And they're going to have.
And I see,
they're going to have to move one of them.
Ward has a year or 2.
He has
max
1 year left. I think both him and Lack have 1 more year left on their contracts.
There you go.
But it's not at such. Well, Ward's pretty hot. Ward took a pay cut last year. He signed a 2-year contract. So, and neither one of them is being paid an astronomical amount, so that other teams wouldn't want as a backup. But but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what the Hurricanes are doing. They're taking a chance here, trying to nail down a decent starting goalie.
Yep.
And of course, I also want to note Scott Darling is another former Maine Black Bear. Got to put that in there whenever I can. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he only played like a season, maybe season and a half, whatever, with Maine, but a very short time.
Mm-hmm. I just see that as clearly Carolina's making a move. They wouldn't have made this move in the offseason if they didn't feel comfortable that Scott Darling was going to sign with them, and they're going to do exactly as you say. You will be our starting goaltender. To which point, one, either Lack or Ward is either going to be moved, or one of the, I don't know how old Eddie Lack is. They may decide to keep him as the backup, and just Cam Ward's got a final season, or they're going to work some sort of an arrangement out where he plays very little, if any. I don't know how many wins he's got. I think he's up there around 290 victories.
Yeah, he's getting close.
They may want to keep him on until he can win 300 games or something. That's always a good goal for a goalie to reach, but I don't see him around long, Wayne.
Yeah.
This 1 year that he's got left on his contract, I think that's it. They're not going to re-sign him.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see what Carolina does in this case. All right, let's move on to our last one or transaction. Forward Matthias Janmark signed a 1 year, $700,000 contract with the Dallas Stars on Thursday. Janmark, who's 24, did not play at all this season because remember he hurt his knee in training camp. He was in the final season of a 2-year contract at an average annual value of $800,000 and could have become a restricted free agent on July 1st. So obviously a depth. They're basically giving him another shot at completing his final year of his contract at a $100,000 pay cut. So yeah. All right. Let's move on to injuries. We talked about it before in the previous when we were talking about the series, but Pittsburgh Penguins center Sidney Crosby has been diagnosed with a concussion and will miss Game 4 of the Eastern Conference second round against the Washington Capitals at PPG Paints Arena on Wednesday night. Coach Mike Sullivan said on Tuesday. Sullivan said Crosby will continue to be evaluated. So he'll be day-to-day for sure. For now, anyway.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say, Wayne, that and stranger things have happened. They may feel the pressure and push this NHL concussion protocol along and see if they can. But I think he's gone for a couple games anyways. While they
the longer he's gone, the more chance Washington has of finally pulling off a series win and go to the third round for the first time in the Ovechkin era.
Yeah.
So, all right. Next story. Minnesota Wild defenseman Marco Scandella had left arthroscopic hip surgery and is expected to be ready for the start of next season, general manager Chuck Fletcher said on Tuesday. Scandella had 13 points in 71 regular season games with the Wild this season and had no points in 5 Stanley Cup playoff games. Well, he had a bad hip. Can't blame him for not having any points. The number 55 pick in the 2008 NHL draft by the Wild, Scandella had 89 points in 373 regular season games. So just another of a list of injuries that happened to the Wild that ultimately ended their season. Anaheim Ducks defenseman Kevin Bieksa is unlikely to return from injury for Game 4 of the Western Conference second round against the Oilers at Rogers Place on Wednesday. Day-to-day Anaheim coach Randy Carlyle said on Saturday, he's going to be out a while. I don't know if it's later in the series, that's the option even possible. Bieksa injured his lower body in a 5-3 Game 1 loss on Wednesday. Defenseman Cam Fowler played 27-57 in a 2-1 Game 2 loss on Friday, his second game back from a knee injury. It's a lot of playing time for coming straight back from injury.
That is.
So, yeah. Okay. Next story, Dallas Stars center Tyler Seguin had surgery on Tuesday to repair a torn labrum in his right shoulder, but could be ready for training camp in September, General Manager Jim Nill said on Wednesday. It's something that bothered him all season, and he could have waited to do it sometime after next season and tried to play through it. but with the time we had, we decided it was best to get it fixed. Nils said recovery will take about 4 months, and Sagan will spend the next 2 to 4 weeks in a sling, then have another month of rehab before he can resume skating. He can't say when it happened. There just wasn't a hit or anything like that he can point to say it was what caused it, Nils said. He never got better and ended up being a tear in the shoulder. Sagan missed all but one game during his last year's playoff because of a calf injury and partially cut an Achilles tendon. This season, he missed all of training camp but was ready for the first game of the season after injuring his ankle in the World Cup of Hockey in 2016. So he's had a lot of injuries.
Yes, he has.
They're starting to pile up for him.
He's kind of like the Steven Stamkos of the Western Conference.
Yep.
You know, a guy that if he could play and stay healthy, Dallas would go places.
But a torn labrum obviously is, now we're finding out why he didn't play so hot this year.
Yep.
Because he was a legitimate Art Ross Trophy candidate coming into the season.
Oh, no question about it. Yep.
But you got a bad shoulder, you're not going to perform that well. So, all right. So unless you have any other transactions, that is all I have.
No on the injury front, other than to say,
or injuries. I'm sorry. Yeah.
The only other injury that I was aware of was, oh gosh, I had it down here. Probably going to miss Game 4 in the Edmonton Ducks series. I don't have it here in front of me, Wayne. There was an injury to report, but they didn't finalize it today. So that's all I had.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, we do have something to report in the milestones, records, honors, and deaths, and that I wanted to touch on was the death of one of the stars from the Miracle movie, the Disney movie with I can't remember his name. Who played Herb Brooks? But anyway, the guy who played Jack O'Callahan in that movie, the movie Miracle, Mike Mananudo, passed away over the past week. Apparently, apparently it was suicide. So he's a former soldier. I think it was after he did the movie. He ended up enrolling. Was a Green Beret.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and obviously carried some demons, and unfortunately he passed away this week at the age of 35. And he's another guy that he actually played at Maine for a very, very short time. He was at Maine for just a short time, and then he transferred out to a smaller school when it basically became apparent that he wasn't going to crack that lineup. So, but he went on to star in that movie, played Jack O'Callahan. It was actually a pretty big role in that movie. Have you seen that movie?
Miracle? No, I have not.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know it was a Disney movie.
Yeah, it's a Disney movie. Oh, yeah, you got to see it. You'll like it. It's a reenactment of the run to the 1980 gold medal. It's that's the plot. So, and Kurt Russell plays Herb Brooks. Did a fantastic job.
Okay.
Yep. So.
That's good.
Unfortunately, we have the passing of one of the actors in that movie to report. All right, so there were no suspensions or fines that I know of this week.
No, there were not.
Nope. Okay, so let's move on to the other interesting stories of the week, and I have a couple. The first is the Devils, who had an 8.5% chance at winning the draft lottery, won the draft lottery, and will choose number 1 overall for the first time since moving to New Jersey in 1982-1983. They moved up from number 5. The Philadelphia Flyers won the number 2 pick, moving them up from the number 13 spot. And then the Dallas Stars got the number 3 pick, moving them up from number 8. So everybody else who did not become one of those top 3, I watched this go down live on TV.
Oh, did you really?
And you see all the team representatives there of all the 15 teams that were in that draft order. I want to say team representatives because for some teams it was GMs, other teams it was former players. It was just a team representative was at the expansion draft to determine, the top 15 picks in the draft coming up here in June. So, and it basically included all the teams that did not make the playoffs. So the Devils won the lottery, and they will pick first overall. And let me just run down through the top 15 real quick. Number 2 will be Philadelphia. Number 3 will be Dallas. Number 4, Colorado. So the worst team in the league drops all the way to number 4. They weren't happy, by the way. The look on Joe Sakic's face, he was about ready to kill somebody because he was there that night.
He hasn't been happy since Patrick Roy left.
Yeah, and number 5 was Vancouver, and their team representative, I can't remember who was there for representing them, but he wasn't happy either. And then Vegas, who could have potentially been the number 3 pick, falls all the way to 6. So
yeah, I thought they had they could finish no worse than 3rd.
No, the way it worked is they said they had the same odds as the team who ended up 3rd worst in the league.
Oh, okay.
So at worst they would fall to 6th. At best they would have been 1.
Okay.
And somewhere in between. Well, the worst case scenario came up for Vegas. They will choose number 6. Number 7 is going to be Arizona. Number 8 is going to be Buffalo. Number 9 is going to be Detroit. Number 10 is going to be Florida. Number 11 is going to be L.A. Carolina picks 12th. Winnipeg 13th. Tampa Bay 14th. New York 15th.
And that's the Islanders?
Yes, the Islanders, not the Rangers.
Yeah.
So
God, I would love a 15th pick, but God, the draft, Rangers haven't been in that in a long time.
Yeah, we're not going to see that. So, all right. And the other story I have this week, the Vegas Golden Knights general manager George McPhee told the Associated Press he's spoken with most NHL teams about trades that could be made prior to the expansion draft in June. McPhee said discussions have focused on players' teams would prefer the Golden Knights either select or don't select, and that he's open to acquiring NHL draft picks. He said, quote, if they want to give us draft picks to encourage us to take a certain player or leave another player alone, we're open-minded, and we're going to listen to everyone. McPhee told the AP in remarks published on Thursday. You usually build your team historically through the entry draft, so we'd certainly be interested in acquiring picks. So you're going to start seeing some trades coming through.
Yeah, Vegas. This is going to be interesting, isn't it? It's really going to be very interesting. I plan on watching.
Yeah, because the Bruins are in a bit of a pickle in that because of having to keep Torrey Krug and Zdeno Chara. Well, they don't have to keep Krug, but it's obvious they're going to. He's one of their better defensemen. But they have to keep Chara because of his no-trade clause. So that the Bruins already, Chara, Krug, they have to keep. Well, the Bruins also want to keep Adam McQuaid, Colin Miller, and Kevin Miller.
Right.
The Bruins want all 5 of those guys because they all played decently this year. But obviously they can't. They can only keep 3. So 2 of those guys are going to be exposed. Now the Bruins could go out there and offer them, a 3rd or 2nd round pick in order, and then say, look, we'll give you a pick if you stay away from picking McQuaid, Miller, and Miller.
Right.
And go pick somebody else.
All right.
And they may make that deal. So those are the kind of deals that we're talking about here that you'll see Vegas making.
On the Rangers side, Wayne, real quick, Brendan Smith is really elevating himself with the team.
Yeah.
And I saw last night on NHL it was either on NHL Network or NBC Sports Network, where they were saying that they're going to, I believe, go hard after keeping Brendan Smith, signing him to a contract. Also because he is a Wisconsin Badger and a teammate of Ryan McDonough and Derek Stepan.
Yep.
But they're going to look to try and keep him. And so that opens the door to someone like Kevin Hayes or JT Miller or one of those players.
Yeah, being left exposed, yeah.
So I don't think they'll pick Kevin Klein. He's hurt.
Yeah.
On the defensive side, and he's not playing right now. So, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be very, very interesting, like you say, particularly for our two teams.
Yep.
As to who gets selected.
Yep. And of course, the team can only lose one player, and they may go forward with Boston.
Right.
If we're lucky, they'll pick up Jimmy Hayes, but because nobody is happy with Jimmy Hayes. Well, Jimmy Hayes and Matt Bolesky are the two contracts that every Bruins fan is complaining about right now, because neither player is doing much on the ice, and both contracts are expensive. So,
yeah.
But Vegas would be stupid to pick up one of those guys anyway, unless they know for a fact that they're going to come out of there or whatever's ailing them from, performing well on the ice. Yeah. All right, and I know you had one or two stories.
I had one other story, okay. Wayne, and that's interesting. Tickets for the 2017 NHL Award Show and Expansion Draft went on sale today. Tickets to the 2017 NHL Awards and NHL Expansion Draft on June 21st at T-Mobile Arena are now available for purchase by visiting nhl.com/awards tickets. This opportunity is available on a first-come, first-served basis while supplies last. Tickets for the event range from $15 to $30, which I thought was very reasonable for what they're going to be doing that night.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Getting the expansion draft, but also the awards show. Following the conclusion of the televised portion of the NHL Awards and the NHL Expansion Draft, fans in attendance will enjoy a special NHL Expansion Draft celebration event at T-Mobile Arena featuring, let's see here, the Golden Knights Chairman and CEO Bill Foley, hockey operations personnel, and selected Golden Knights players and other Golden Knights front office staff. This will be the first opportunity for Golden Knights fans to have directly from the newly drafted Golden Knights players in person. So it's the first time they'll be able to see their players and get somebody go up to the podium and say nice to be in Las Vegas, et cetera, et cetera.
So I saw this article, and the first thing that came to mind is, okay, so they're announcing the team, the players that they're going to select that night.
Right.
And they're going to have some of those players on hand to, meet the press, meet the crowd, whatever.
Yeah.
So does that mean those players are going to be told ahead of time that they're going to be picked and that they need to get out to Las Vegas?
That to me is what they're saying.
Yeah.
I really, yeah, that's what they're saying.
So people in Vegas, we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
When you see certain players coming through your airport,
yeah,
we want to get tipped off on who's coming into town so that we know before everybody else who is going to get picked in Vegas.
That's right. Take a YouTube video on your cell phone and send it to us.
Right.
And we will give exclusive.
I don't know how many listeners we have in Vegas, but I imagine we probably have one or two anyway.
Yeah.
They need to start hanging out at the airport and letting us know. Well, you don't have to do it now, but
that's right.
Right around the time that those players would be coming into town, we want to see pictures and video of those players coming into town, so we know before it's even announced. You heard it here first, right? All right.
That's right. And if you drink red chum ale, let us know how that is too.
Yeah. Right. Flying in from San Jose.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to and we've kind of been skipping this one here and there over the past couple of weeks, but the HockeyNuts.com power ranking for the week.
Yes.
And really, there's only 8 teams that we need to be talking about right now.
That's right.
Because everybody else they're all in the same boat. They're all playing golf somewhere.
That's right.
And I believe it's your turn.
I have 8 teams selected here, and Wayne, I saw the 8 that were on the list. And I made these selections based on the games through last night.
Okay.
I picked the Nashville Predators as the number 1 team. I guess we can go 8-1, but I'm going to go 1-8.
Yeah, why not? Let's be different.
I picked the Nashville Predators as number 1.
Sure, why not? They've only got 1 loss. They're playing lights out. They've already knocked off the Rangers. Not the Rangers. The Blackhawks.
Yep. Really something to watch them, and I put them as number 1. Number 2, slipping and falling down from number 1, is the Pittsburgh Penguins. And it really remains to be seen how they perform. The game tonight's going to tell us a lot.
Yep.
But if Evgeny Malkin picks up, as I've seen him do, they may not even miss a beat for a game or two. So they will know tonight how they're gonna fare.
Sure will.
Number 3, the Edmonton Oilers. I picked Edmonton third because I think they're going to win that series, and I just see them as coming on. In that Western Conference, I think it's going to be Edmonton-Nashville, and that's going to be one hell of a series. I think that there will be a lot of people tuning in to watch that series. I really do.
Yep.
Number 4, I picked the Washington Capitals.
Okay.
Because I think Washington's better than Ottawa. And if they come on tonight and win a game, they take the commanding position in this series and could very well win it.
Yep.
Number 5, the Ottawa Senators. You'd have to put them there because they've
been playing well. Yep.
Been playing well. Number 6 is I put the New York Rangers, and I would have had them as 7 or 8 had they not won last night.
Yep. I think the ranking that I put into our show notes, I did after the Monday games. So it did not include last night. So at that moment, the Rangers were still down 2-0 to Ottawa. So.
Yep, and you'd have to put them in like that.
Yep.
Number 7, the Anaheim Ducks. I just don't, that could change. Anaheim comes back and wins a couple games. But right now, Edmonton's got control of that series.
Yep.
And they're playing at home in Game 4, up 2-1.
Yep.
So I've got Anaheim at 7, and the last number 8 team. I hate to say it to the fans of St. Louis, but the St. Louis Blues are in last place.
Well, they're down 3. They're the only team that's on the brink of elimination right now, so it makes sense.
Right.
Everybody else has only at most 2 losses. So.
That's right.
All right. Well, let's move ahead to the NHL awards nominations. We had a few more come out this week, and they may be done. I don't know of any others that are coming out. But this week we had the Hart, the Ted Lindsay, the Jack Adams, and the Mark Messier Leadership Award come out. So starting with the Hart Trophy, Pittsburgh Penguins center Sidney Crosby is a candidate to win the Hart Trophy for the 3rd time in his NHL career. Crosby, along with Edmonton Oilers center Connor McDavid, Columbus Blue Jackets goalie Sergei Bobrovsky, are the finalists for the trophy given to the player judged to be the most valuable to his team. And, those are 3 worthy candidates right there. All 3, their team is toast without them.
That's true.
Although if you take it, and this has been the big debate with that trophy for years, is it just simply the best player in the league, or the most valuable to his team? Meaning, if that player were to be removed from their team, the team would suffer the greatest. You take Sidney Crosby off the Penguins, you still got Malkin, you still got Kessel, you still got I mean, you still got a number of really, really good players.
Yep.
You take Connor McDavid off the Oilers, and they're done.
Yep.
They're just done.
Yep.
Bobrovsky, same thing. I mean, it just showed in the playoffs. Bobrovsky didn't play that well in the playoffs. Look what happened. They got knocked out quickly. So I would tend to lean towards giving it to McDavid or Bobrovsky or Crosby.
And my point being,
just simply that.
I agree. The one point I want to make on this, Wayne, is we're going to talk about the Vezina. But if Sergei Bobrovsky is the nominee for the Hart Trophy, how does he not win the Vezina?
Yep, good point.
Yep.
Well, the year was it last year or the year before that Carey Price got nominated for the Hart. He won the Vezina. So it's a good point.
Yep.
And you could say the same thing for any defenseman that might come along that's nominated for the Hart. That they should automatically win the Norris. So, but there weren't. It was 2 forwards and a goalie this year. All right, Ted Lindsay Award. That one was just announced last night. Defenseman Brent Burns of the San Jose Sharks, center Sidney Crosby of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and center Connor McDavid of the Oilers are the finalists for the Ted Lindsay Award, presented annually to the most outstanding player in the NHL, as voted by fellow members of the NHL Players Association. So this is actually, it almost sounds the same as the Hart Trophy, but it's not. It's a most outstanding player. So not most valuable to his team. See, there's a subtle difference there.
Right.
And in this one, it's 2 of the players are the same as the Hart Trophy, but in this one, Bobrovsky falls out and Burns comes in.
Right.
And I think like you said, Brent Burns being now this one is voted on by the players, so so this one almost is a higher esteem to it because it's the players showing the ultimate respect to a fellow player. But in this case, you got Brent Burns as a defenseman, like you said. If he's nominated for this trophy, how can he not be the Norris Trophy winner? And we both picked Burns to win it, didn't we? When we did our
we did.
We did. I know I did. So So we'll see on that one. All right, the Jack Adams Award: Mike Babcock of the Maple Leafs, Todd McClellan of the Oilers, and John Tortorella of the Blue Jackets were all named as finalists for the Jack Adams Award, which goes annually to the top coach in the NHL. So all 3 are worthy candidates. Although I think, oh man, it's a tough one. I'm looking at the 3 names, I'm like, you can make a name for all 3 of them, really.
Yep.
Because Babcock completely surprised by bringing the Maple Leafs to the playoffs. Edmonton has finally improved and really taken that next step towards relevance around the league again. And then John Tortorella, of course, screams and yells a lot, but he also occasionally does get some looks on these awards. So
Wayne, real quick on this one.
Yeah.
I believe Todd McClellan is the only one that has not won this award. Is that correct?
I don't believe McClellan has. No, I know Babcock has. Yeah.
Tortorella won it in 2004.
Yep, and I know Babcock has won it back in his days in Detroit. So
I'm wondering if that takes precedent. Although they don't sit there behind the closed doors and do this, but the people say, well, let's give it to Todd McClellan because the other 2 guys have won it.
Yeah. So agreed. All right, and the last award I have is the Mark Messier Leadership Award, and Nick Foligno of the Blue Jackets, Mark Giordano of the Flames, and Ryan Getzlaf of the Anaheim Ducks have been named finalists for the Mark Messier Leadership Award. The award's given annually to the player who exemplifies great leadership qualities to the team on and off the ice during the regular season. Messier solicited suggestions from the club and team personnel and fans, but the former Edmonton Oilers, New York Ranger, and Vancouver Canucks captain makes the final selection in these three finalists and the winner. See, I didn't know before I researched this article that Messier is the one that actually chooses the person who gets the Mark Messier Leadership Award.
Yeah.
I thought it was a committee like all the other ones. But apparently it's Messier himself that chooses, which is kind of weird. But because what happens when he passes on?
Yeah.
Is that award going to continue to be awarded, or is you going to retire it?
Gosh, I don't know.
So, I guess we'll see. All right. Well, I'm done talking about the NHL for now. How about you?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's move on to World Championships. And, they begin on Friday. They run through the 21st of May. And basically, any NHL player who is not currently playing on a playoff team is eligible to play. And one thing that's unique to this tournament is they can make roster changes. I think they can do it at the end of pool play before they go into the medal round. They can add or drop players on there. So teams that are playing now in the second round, any of those players that get eliminated at the end of the second round can still join these teams. So the rosters, I have links to all the rosters in the show notes if you want to see them. But, these rosters definitely are by no means finalized because they can change. But the tournament is being held in Cologne, Germany, and Paris, France. The medal round will be in Cologne. And there's 16 teams in the league, or in the tournament this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Group A includes Russia, who has 6 NHL players on their team, and the rest of the players come from the KHL on that team. USA has 18 players from the NHL. Sweden, who has 16 players, and 4 of them are Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep. Slovakia has no NHL players. Germany has 3. Latvia has 1. Denmark has 1. And Italy has none. In Group B is led by Canada with 22 NHL players on their roster. Finland with 7. Czech Republic with 2. Switzerland with 2. Belarus with none. Norway with 1. France with 3. And Slovenia with none. So, obviously, Canada seems to be the team with the easiest draw to the final at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I agree.
So it should be a fun tournament. A lot of the games, I think, are going to be televised on NHL Network, if I'm right. Pretty sure I'm right. So, probably won't be able to get every single game. If Belarus is playing Norway, there aren't many people in the U.S. that's going to care about that one. But
Yeah.
or in Group A when Latvia plays Italy, not a lot of interest.
Yeah.
In that one. So, but definitely, Canada Finland will be a good game. Obviously, USA Russia. Or USA Sweden, or Russia Sweden. So Canada seems to have the easiest path to the gold medal round, if you ask me. But
I agree.
Who am I? Just a fan. All right, so let's continue on. I want to touch briefly on, get you up to date on some of the minor leagues that are going on around the world. And first and foremost, the Canadian Hockey League, which is the major juniors of Canada, which is your best under 20 players, basically, in Canada. All 3 leagues, or conferences, I guess they're leagues, not conferences, the WHL, the OHL, and the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League are all entering into their final series. So the individual, I guess their individual leagues will crown their champions here shortly. They play a 7-game series just like the NHL does, so it takes them a while to get through their playoffs.
Yeah.
But in the final of the Western Hockey League, you have the Regina Pats against the Seattle Thunderbirds. In the OHL, you have the Erie Otters, that's Connor McDavid's old team, against the Mississauga Steelheads. And then in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, you have the Blainville Breeze Band. Can never say that name right. Armada versus the St. John's Sea Dogs. And of those 3 series, once the winner is crowned, those 3 advance. And because the Memorial Cup is being hosted in Windsor this year, the Windsor Spitfires will be the 4th team competing in the Memorial Cup by virtue of being the host. All right. In Europe, the Swedish Hockey League has crowned their champion. It's HV71 Jönköping. Well, that's horrible. It's horrible. The Finnish League has crowned theirs, Tappara Tampere. France has crowned their champion, Rouen. Denmark, I'm not sure yet. Doesn't look like they have, according to the websites that I see. The Slovakian Extra League also hasn't crowned theirs yet. That I know of, anyway. The German League appears to have not crowned theirs yet. The Czech League, the champion is Bruno Kometa. The Austrian League and the British Elite Hockey League either don't play a playoff or they haven't started their playoff yet. The U.S. Hockey League is still in the midst of their playoffs. That's a junior league here in the U.S., the United States Hockey League. Other minor leagues around in North America, the Southern Professional Hockey League just crowned their champion, the Macon Mayhem, over the Peoria Rivermen in a 2-game sweep of that. I guess it's I don't know if it's a 2-game series or if it was 3-game series. I'm not sure how that went. It might have been a 3-game series. And Macon won 2-0. The Federal Hockey League crowned their champion, the Danville Dashers, over the Berlin River Drivers, 3-2. Yeah. And Berlin, that's Berlin, New Hampshire. I've played in that arena growing up.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I was wondering where that was. I know Danville. Danville is that's Illinois.
Yep.
Danville, Illinois.
Yeah, it's a very small league, that Federal Hockey League. It's like way low level. It's like a couple steps below the ECHL. I mean, we're talking very low level. But I had to include that in there because Berlin, Yeah.
And, of course, next year, Winston-Salem will have a team.
Yep.
The Carolina Thunderbirds.
Yeah, they're going to. We'll have to go to a game. We'll definitely have to go to a game. It'll be cheap. It'll be fun. Be a lot of fights.
Yeah, that is fun to go watch those games. You're not kidding.
A league like that will have definitely a lot of fights. So if Berlin River Drivers come down here to play that Greensboro team, you bet your butt we're going to be there, or I'm going to be there anyway.
I hear you.
Because, Berlin, that's my old stomping grounds. So, all right. And the ECHL and the American Hockey League are both in the middle of their playoffs. They're a ways away from finishing theirs. So, and obviously the KHL is done. We talked about that last week. So that brings us to just our picks of the week.
Yes.
And you didn't mention me what you have, so I'll let you surprise me.
Okay, my pick of the week. I'm as it turns out here, since these playoffs have started, I've been picking New York Rangers to talk about for picks of the week, just because I am psyched about our team and I hope and pray for the best for them. But this week, my pick of the week is Ryan McDonough, who has turned in just tremendous 2 playoff series. If they ended today, he's it's between him and Henrik for best player of the playoffs so far. But Ryan McDonough, 1 goal, 4 assists in the playoffs for 5 points, averaging 27.33 minutes of ice time, which is tremendous.
He's been a horse, yeah.
He has a lot of hits. I don't have the tally for the number of hits, but he's up there in leadership in that category. Anyways, the article, the captain for the Rangers, always with an eye for developments before they happen, was sitting at his locker room stall when he noticed a cluster of reporters approaching Henrik Lundqvist at the adjacent space. Ryan McDonough politely got up and moved. "I need to get better real estate," he said. He was joking because everyone in that room knew that when McDonough is in a game, his will makes it seem like every inch of the ice is his turf. He's not the type to brazenly guarantee a victory the way Captain Mark Messier did, nor is McDonough the kind of defenseman who can dominate offensively in the manner of Senators Captain Erik Karlsson. McDonough is simply and quietly the kind of captain and player who can lift a team and control a series. In the series against the Montreal Canadiens, McDonough played as well as he ever has, maybe better. He was the tide that raised all the boats, leading by word and example, probably more of the latter, to 3 inspired wins in a row. He brought an edge to the Montreal series and let everyone around him know that he was there, Coach Alain Vigneault said. "I really love the fact that he wanted the puck and he wanted to make plays with that puck. You've got to have players who want to be the difference makers, and Ryan McDonough is. Hockey is one sport in which captaincy does make a difference beyond something merely ceremonial or honorary. A hockey captain wears a C on his uniform and is empowered to represent his team in discussions with referees. He also carries definite status among his teammates. McDonough was first given the honor in 2015 when he was only 25. Then and now, the greatest source of his authority is that he is a terrific player with an outstanding heart. His focus and leadership are what set him apart," said Brady Shea. "He is an elite defenseman," said Derek Stepan, his fellow Minnesota native and teammate at the University of Wisconsin. "He's got the size, the skill, and the speed to handle anyone in the league."
There.
Let's see
He's
here.
having a playoff, yeah.
Finish it up. Unassumingly, his steps have a way of becoming leaps and bounds. He overwhelmingly outshone fellow captain Max Pacioretty last series, and so far in this series, he is beginning to steal the show from Karlsson. In everything McDonough does, quiet as it might be, you can see the sea. And that's all I had on him. I'm thankful for how we've made it through thus far, and we got a real chance, Wayne. If we can win this series, we got a real chance to do something we haven't done. So,
agreed.
So, good work keeps up here.
Yep. Well, mine is I just can't get enough of the Oilers fans. I really can't. We alluded to it at the beginning of the show, and I didn't talk much about it because I wanted to talk more about it here. But back on, and I can't remember, it was Game 3, I believe. Yeah, Game 3, and the Ducks. Edmonton Oilers coach Todd McClellan and forward Patrick Maroon expressed how proud they were of their fans for bailing out Canadian country music singer Brett Kessel, whose mic failed as he was about to perform the Star-Spangled Banner before Game 3 of the Western Conference first-round series against the Anaheim Ducks on Sunday. When Kessel realized his microphone wasn't being heard inside Rogers Place, and one of the things, before I move on this, is his mic was working to the TV audience, but what was happening is the people in the arena couldn't hear him.
Oh,
That's what the problem was. So he was getting a lot of flack because he was supposed to be singing the national anthem, and he sung one or two notes and then held the mic up and let the crowd, right? So he was taking a lot of heat on Twitter because, they were saying, well, you're supposed to be singing the national anthem, sing it. Don't just go out there and do nothing. But that's what happened. His mic was okay for TV, and he didn't know that because, he was going on what he could hear in the arena. But everybody in the building couldn't hear it. So, so anyway, moving on. When Kissel realized his microphone wasn't being heard inside Rogers Place, he asked the fans to pick him up. The Edmonton crowd, famous for belting out "O Canada" before Stanley Cup playoff games, helped out Kissel with a chill-inducing rendition of the American national anthem. Now, this is in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and the crowd sung it flawlessly, word for word, the American national anthem. I'm certainly proud to say that I'm from Edmonton today, and I think everybody else that's around me can say that as well. McClellan said on Monday, a day after the Oilers' 6-3 loss against the Ducks. As it turns out, sometimes a glitch can produce a great moment. I thought once again the people of Edmonton showed their respect to our neighbors down south, and it speaks volume of the quality of people that live here in this community. And then Maroon, who's actually a St. Louis native, loved the moment. He said it was pretty special. I thought obviously Brett knew the mic wasn't going, so I thought as an American for a Canadian to sing the national anthem was pretty special to me. They should all be proud. It certainly got me going. It was pretty cool. As an American, I was pretty proud of what happened last night with the national anthem. Ducks owner Henry Susan Samueli on Monday expressed their appreciation for the Edmonton crowd. Congratulations to the Edmonton fans for creating such a special moment last night by singing both of the national anthems. To hear the audience passionately sing both the Canadian and the U.S. anthems was inspiring and powerful. Well done, Edmonton.
Yes.
So,
you better believe it. I saw that as well and could not believe how well they did with the American, and I really was touched by that.
Yep.
Wayne.
I when I saw the replay, I took the video and tweeted it. I think I tweeted it out, and all I just put is, classy move by the Edmonton fans.
It really was
something to that effect. Yep. So. Yep.
That was a good one.
And based on what has happened, over the recent days in baseball in Boston, Boston fans could take a lot of learning lessons there. We'll just leave it at that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, just look it up on Major League Baseball. We won't talk about it here anyway. All right. Well, that's pretty much all we have for the show this week.
I think we got it settled. And, next week, Wayne, we should know who the four teams are looking like they're going to be. At least in a couple of series, we may know who they are. But next week's podcast will be decisive.
Yeah, the Game 7s for the 4 series, we got Wednesday, May 10th, Tuesday, May 9th, Wednesday, May 10th, Thursday, May 11th. So 3 of the 4, if they go that far, could still be going on. But yeah, we'll be a lot closer for sure to finding out who are the 4 teams remaining in the conference finals. So definitely, definitely stay tuned, and we'll have full coverage of that. Plus, we'll have more talk about the actual results in the World Championship. Because there's going to be plenty of hockey there to talk about. Let's see what else is going on over the next week. I don't think there's anything draft related, unless Vegas comes up with another story again that they want to try to stay in the news with. They seem to be pretty good at that this season. But yeah, there's a lot going on. So yeah, come on back next week, and obviously if you're subscribed to the show, you'll be able to get that next week when we record then. But until then, we want to remind you that you can get a SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, all the places where podcasts are. We are located there. You can listen to us on our website, hockeynuts.com. You can listen to us on the hockeywriters.com website, on their podcast channel, along with a bunch of other great hockey-related podcasts. Some are team-specific, others are general hockey in nature. It's a lot like ours. Ours is kind of a a blend between team focus and league-wide. So we do talk about all the league topics, but we do it through the black and gold and the red, white, and blue colored spectacles that we each wear. So, and we encourage you to support the show financially if you can by using our affiliate links for Amazon.com and HockeyMonkey.com. And again, to get to those links, just go to our website at thehockeynuts.com and click on the links, and your purchases won't cost you anything more, and we get a little bit of a kickback for that. And we thank those who've used it in the past, and we thank those who are going to be using it in the future. And
Yes,
then
sir.
obviously we want you to share the show with everybody you know that's a hockey fan. Obviously, if they're not hockey fans, we don't want you sharing the show because they'd be bored to death listening to us yammer on about hockey. So, and of course, we want you to get involved with the show. You could tweet us. I'm at Wayne Halley 9. Steve is at sball504man. You can email the show at feedback@thehockeynuts.com. You can reach us through our Facebook page at facebook.com/thehockeynuts. So there's a bunch of different ways to get in contact with us, and we're not going to bite you. So feel free to give us your 2 cents, and we'll be happy to. I've had a lot of Twitter conversations in recent weeks with some various listeners of the show, so we appreciate all the feedback that we have had over the past. So
Very much so.
and we look forward to it in the future. So until next week, I think we're done.
I think we're finished.
All
I think
right.
we got it wrapped.
All right, and I got to go pick up my daughter. So we're going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. So until next week, we'll see you then. We'll talk to you later, Steve.
Good night now.
All right, have a good night.